the department in the Department of Computer Science in the Faculty of Computer Science Information Technology in Putra, Malaysia, and it has been also elected as chair of IEEE Consumer Technology Malaysia chapter. His research interests are towards interoperability aspects of smart homes and Internet of Things, wearable computing, and cyber physical systems. Thinagara Perumal sir is also heading the National Committee on Standardization for IoT as chairman since 2018. Some of the eminent works includes proactive architecture for IoT systems, development of the cognitive IoT frameworks for smart homes, and wearable devices for rehabilitation purposes. He member of IEEE Consumer Technology Society and its Future Direction Committee on the Internet of Things. He has been invited to give several keynote lectures and plenary talk on Internet of Things in various institutions and organizations. Internationally, he has published several papers in IEEE conferences, also in the journals, and he is also serving as a TPC member for several reputed IEEE conferences. He is an active reviewer for IEEE Internet of Things and IEEE Communication Magazine, IEEE Census Journal, IEEE Transaction for Automation Science and Engineering, and also to name a few. He was elected as General Chair for IEEE International Symposium on Consumer Electronics in 2017, held in Kuala Lumpur. He is currently serving as a Chair, IEEE CT SOC, Technical Committee on Internet of Things and Digital Twin, overseeing some of the society's technical. We are very much happy to welcome you, sir, and it is over to you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So hope I'm audible and you can see my slides clearly.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Any
Thank you.
possibility that you can make your camera on, sir?
Yeah,
Snap.
just on, just
Yeah.
give me. Okay. Just hold.
Sir, no issue, sir. You please proceed, sir.
Okay, done. Right. So I hope you can see
yes.
and then slide on.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Hello, sir.
Right. Hello. Thank you for having me on board today, and it's a pleasure to deliver a talk for the score, right? The IT Velour. So in the next couple of minutes, I'm just going to take everyone for to see some real use cases on applying Gen AI. So the scope will be on the fusing artificial intelligence of things and Gen AI for proactive indoor air quality monitoring, right? So so a couple of things that we will discover today, probably on the computing revolutions for AIoT, some of the application domains, and finally we'll narrow down into the use cases that we're going to see. So I think everybody is quite familiar with what Internet of Things all about. Okay, it's been a strategic technology trend. It's been a game changer for many years, and till AI came into the scenario, things has been speeding up, and there's a huge transformation in how we see IoT in this current era. But the biggest bottleneck, right, when we look into the transformations of IoT into AI and what we call as artificial intelligence of things today is the way we perceive the objects. So it's very important for anyone who wants to embark on the projects or even research on AIoT to understand the characteristics of the object itself. So we used to have a passive objects, which was traditionally associated with the IoT. It could be a tag or pointer or some sort of contextualized informations, right? It could be something like your credit card with a chip, probably have some informations within it, and then it's been used for general applications. And then we had reactive objects. This is something that we commonly see around us, right? Something like remote controls, your setup boxes, probably a switch at home that can trigger something, turning on and off, right? And this has been common. So when AIoT transforms the entire ecosystems, we used to see and we like to see many more autonomous objects, which is possible with Gen AI particularly. So it could be bespoke machines that could make decisions by themselves, or a bespoke machines that could derive some prediction or predictive analytics from the past data. So this has been the key objects for AIoT. So an IoT objects is pretty much very flexible, right? It's a physical objects. You might have any physical objects, then you couple them up with some functionality sensors, which has its own IP address objects. And these objects could actually refer to any physical objects, could be anything. So when you have that, when you combine and it can send and receive data via network, it becomes an IoT object. So the definition is that many people thinks that an IoT is always about connecting objects, but it is more than that. So when AIoT came into the scenario, we perceive them as a complete ecosystems, which definitely has some value-added services with some intelligent data processing and management. So the keyword here, I think we have to pay attention, is the intelligent data processing. So the word intelligent is very crucial in order to transform these IoT devices. So when we talk holistically about AIoT, right, there's a huge transformations from what IoT has been so far, and then how do we see artificial intelligence of things today, right? So in the classical IoT, there is always a data collection, the way we store it, the way we process it, right, and then analyzing and controlling. But now even when we want to collect the data, when there is the use of AI, the way we collect the data is also very flexible. Sometimes can be very bespoke and could be very narrowed, right? So there's a lot of changes in the way we see the data aggregations has been transformed by AI, and then storing them in the cloud, processing them in the cloud, analyzing them, and then actuating with AI. It's also a different thing today, right? So there are a lot of energy savings, energy efficiency concerns when there is AI being perceived into these kind of AIoT objects. So there's been a tremendous transformations, right? And a lot of use cases have been influenced today. And so I think the concept is still the same. We need an object, we need a local network, and then we need the cloud services, and then we have the global network that actually connects those objects. So in the consumer-centric, right, AIoT objects still perceived as values. The question is that sometimes when you have use cases, right, or IoT projects for AI, there is a lot of debates whether it's going to be neat or complications, right? It's pretty much early to predict that, but there's been an ongoing debate that whether AIoT objects is still a really a valid need, or whether it could be something that could contribute to humanization of technology. So that is definitely a gray area, but academics and industries are actually skeptical, and as well as the same time there are many policies, white papers, frameworks that has been suggested on how do we perceive AIoT in make sure ensuring that there is some sort of humanization of technology, right? So just like when we use GPTs, right? There must be some guideline on how do we use AI, and this of course leads to another paradigm called responsible AI, right? So the consumer-centric IoT, right? It's all about the applications, the scale, and how it cut across the computing stacks, right? And a lot of stuff has been done in the past, okay? And if you look at the application itself, right? Normally, it's motivated by the actual problems in the key domains, and on the other hand, uh, it's very important for us to see some of the um, I want to say that um, to test the use case, I think the real world should be a great aspect. I think like in universities when you have a lot of problem statements, I think the students or the BTech students or the MTech students can actually use the campus as their own test bed, and from that you can have real problems that could have interested parties. So this is one, right? And then you have this skill where sometimes AIoT applications can be very huge, right? So if you look at the trend, a lot of applications related to outdoor and environmental monitoring. These are I'm talking about the large verticals, right? Something about smart buildings and energy, because these are I would say, a luxury domain where there's a lot of investments going on, safety and security, industrial infrastructure, urban areas, and healthcare. But again, I think it's very important for the academicians, right, even the researchers, to understand the socio context informations before we embark on a project. AIoT could accelerate, but I think it's very important that we solve the ground problem before we go to the larger verticals. So if you take Asian countries like probably Malaysia, India, Singapore, we share a quite common interest where we deal with the large populations, and then we have to provide the best citizen services. So sometimes the application overviews can be very huge, but it doesn't solve the ground problem. So this is where that when we use AIoT, it's very important to see what is the necessary points. And then it is very important to cut the application must cut across the computing stack, right? So if you look at the AIoT stack, in the bottom layer, of course, you have a very stable hardware primitives, okay, microcontrollers, memories, which are very common today. Then you have the platforms, right, off-the-shelf microcontrollers as well, environmental sensors, which you can get it quite commonly from the market. Then the operating systems, in terms of device programming, security patches, connectivity, a plethora choices of connectivity. So gone are the days where we depend on the Wi-Fi, but today we have Bluetooth for low energy, okay, LoRaWAN, Sigfox, many other short-range wireless protocols that actually is good for AIoT. Then on the ensemble programming, right, the way we define the rule schema, the way we see the data flows. On the cloud side, you have the storage. And finally, the most important thing, the analytical part, where you have machine learning, deep learning, trend analysis. So today we are talking about Gen AI, and also partially many of the AIoT sensors today moving forward to explainable AI. So there are a lot of enablers today, okay, cheap sensors, cheap bandwidth, cheap processing, smartphones, ubiquitous wireless coverage everywhere, big data, okay. It's quite a stable enablers, right? But again, if I can give you a good example, right? If you look at in this diagram, there is a traditional racket and there is AIoT enabled racket. This is something that we use to play games like badminton, tennis, right? So the traditional racket is actually meant for the match, for the games, right? But on the other hand, when you have this AIoT enabled racket, what would be the consequences? All right, of course, you have additional power supply, probably batteries, and probably the racket could have sensors like magnetometer, accelerometers, right? And maybe you have some other sensors, sweat sensors, or for example, or gyroscopes, right? So if you look at the angle, probably the AIoT enabled racket is meant to measure the player's performance, or maybe to record the match strategy, for instance. So what I'm trying to say is that it's highly possible to transform any objects today into an AIoT object or Gen AI enabled, but there must be a clear guideline or clear specific goals on why the first place we need to transform those objects. Otherwise, it's going to be meaningless, right? So it's every researcher has to see the validity of the problem statement in the Gen AI, especially if they want to work on this kind of AIoT projects. So when we have AIoT projects, okay, the support platform is very crucial. The way we define the task, the way we categorize them, all right, into the services, the decision support, the analysis model, the data sets, right, and so on. So this is an example of products from Nike. It's a well-known example of sensors in the non-computing device. Okay, what the shoe does is actually collects data from the individual and send the data to the iPod or iPad or even iPhone. It has its own social network and automatically tweet and post a status report. So this was previously, but today when we have IoT AI, it draws conclusion based on the past data. So this is some projects that has been overhauled because of the lack of AI part. But today when you have Gen AI, many things can be done with the data. So one of the important ecosystems for IoT is actually the wearable, because the wearable is going to be the key enabler for the data collections today onwards, right? So it's an important enabler. If you look at the many wearable devices today, they very much focus on the healthcare or fitness tracking, but not into other domain, right? Even in the market, it's very focused on the fitness tracking, sometime into sports, fashion, and healthcare, but nothing else. But I think a slight tweak, a slight fine tune, wearables can do many things, right? For instance, we can use a wearable shoe for farmers, right? So while the farmers are working on the field, paddy field, probably they could actually do indirect data collections from the wearable shoe can give you the soil status, the temperature, the humidity, and do the real-time analytics on the field, right? So this is kind of creating an invisible computing for the farmers, right? So there is no burden to the farmers for high investment. So this could be one possible problem statement that could be beneficial in the field of agriculture. So what are the elements, right? How how do we connect to the world? Where is the intelligence? That's the keyword today. So if you look at the design flow, uh, these are pretty much straightforward on what it has been so far, from the concept to the design, right, till the prototyping, right, and then you have the testing and production, right. So once you have an AIoT product, there are three fundamental operations. Of course, the collection of data, processing the data. This is where you put your AI infusions, and then finally the control. So most of the students or the researchers, they work on the second layer, the processing the data. And this is where the skills needed for every student to fundamentally gain more experience on getting the right tools, using the right LLM models, all right, probably to see some of the important transformer models, right, that could be beneficial for uh, transforming objects. Again, it's not that simple because we are dealing with heterogeneity. We know that the sensors belongs to different domains, and sensors use various technologies to communicate. And of course, in AIoT, we are just talking about not one or two devices. Probably we're talking about thousands of devices, thousands of sensor nodes, and there are huge concerns due to the high mobility. And how do we name them? How do we address them? Right? Discovery of objects. Right? Sometimes there is a necessity of high-powered GPUs, um, especially for discovering them and processing them, especially, right? And not forgetting to comply to some standardizations efforts, because different country has different regulatory, and most of us are using ISO slash IEC standards to see the flow of the developments, right? So the key components for IoT, right? These are the five key components: um, the power and storage management, security and privacy, microcontrollers, sensors and actuators, and then connectivity. So power and storage management is actually a crucial part. There used to be predictions that it's going to be 50 billion IoT devices, but unfortunately we haven't reached that numbers yet. But definitely we are going to hit a staggering demand of power, because despite many AIoT devices uses lesser power, but when we are talking about larger scale volumes, then there's going to be staggering demand for power. So there could be projects on how do we leverage on ultra low power designs, thin flame energy storage, or even energy harvesting, right? And the same goes to IoT storage management, because all the while we've been depending on the public clouds. So when you have very unique wearables, probably very much personalized, that deals with sensitive data, there is huge demand on how do we leverage on the local storage. So local storage could be a very good content aggregator for storing local data, especially log files from the sensors. And this could be an important consideration for IoT devices. And then you have security and privacy, which is a never-ending issue. We know the IoT characterize data-intensive environment, and a consumer will only accept when they feel very secure with that, right? Just like we accept the mobile phone, that's where when a consumer will accept an IoT device when they are secure, they feel secure and privacy is assured. Then MCUs has been there as one of the important components in the ecosystems. It expands the AIoT horizon, always deliver meaningful predictive analytics, right? So there are a lot of MCUs for beginners to to try new AIoT projects, ranging from Arduino, Raspberry Pi, BeagleBone, Intel Galileo, right? And all there are also high level, high specs hardwares, GPUs, which could be good for any healthcare um, domains, right? Especially, and then there are also bespoke IoT bots from LinkedIn. LinkedIn seems Smart series from Photons, right? This could be a little bit pricier than the rest of them, but might be good for real-time deployment, right? And then also the machine learning hardware for both cloud and edges with respective of their chip type and GPUs. They're also flooded in the market, right? So which one to use? We have to look at the types of the domains that we are going to look at, right? So like Tesla AI chip is for the autonomous cars. Then we have Google TPU, ARM, right? IBM True North, which is quite very interesting. If you look at IBM True North and IBM Intel Lohi, right? They are made for neuromorphic. Okay, neuromorphic is very exciting because it's all about using spike neural network, which is based on neuroscience for uh, your embedded system programs, right? So this is going to be the next generation AI. Then the fourth would be the sensors and actuators. Um, the notion that we detect, gather, and measure data inputs, right? Then the location-based services, even GPS, temperature, whatever vital signs, right? It's available, and they are also needed for actuations. These are also cheap, just like the MCUs. It's also available off the shelf. Today, students can able to source them from the market, right, easily. And then the fifth one would be the connectivity. How does IoT crosses a broad range of data rates? So it used to be Wi-Fi, but today we have a plethora of choices of connectivity, like Bluetooth for low energy, LoRa, and so on. So there are also consortiums who actually comes with this respective protocols, like 1M2M, OpenHAB, Open Mobile Alliance, right? OPC Foundations, which we have a range of choices, right? So again, the selection always depends on the types of the domain that we're going to work on. So normally, if you look at general white paper use cases, they always talk about smart homes. But again, smart homes might not be um, very good use cases for many countries because, uh, as I mentioned earlier, it's very important to look in the socio-economic factor, right? For smart homes might be good in US, probably in Japan or Korea, okay, where highly populated urban residents actually resides in high-rise buildings, right? While in Asia, we have like small segments of villages. We have small township, right? Small community residencies, which might not be viable to have use cases for smart homes. But in instance, a smart city or a smart village could be viable to explore. So one of the projects, okay, that we have done in Malaysia. It's about the indoor air quality monitoring for indoor spaces, right? So we know the air quality is quite huge, but often there's been neglected on the importance of having indoor air quality monitoring, right? So what happens is that the way there are some AIoT environmental sensors which aggregates the data and do some data transmission, storing them in a non-SQL database, and then using some LLM models, right? Uh, by a Carrot and LLM recommendation engine by with the Google Gemini API, and then we do have some visualizations or some sort of dashboards to visualize the data. So when working on this kind of a very case-sensitive applications, right? Because air quality is always about attributes or some standards. So it's important to refer to the guideline by like in Malaysia, we have a Department of Occupational Safety and Health under the Ministry of Human Resource. So they provide us the parameters and an acceptable range, right? And also they also give some suggestive values, right, on the list of the indoor air contaminants and in their acceptable limits. So this is very important when you embark on this kind of projects because we need to set the threshold, especially when you configure and program those sensors, right? So, for example, in indoor air quality, there are indoor air contaminants like chemical contaminants, could be carbon monoxide, formaldehyde, or ozone, respirable particulates, and even total volatile organic compounds, right? So these are the 5 major chemical contaminants. But to get a census on carbon monoxide is pretty much easier. To get a census for respirable particulates is also fine. And also to get a TVOC census is also fine. But ozone and formaldehyde requires more industrial, or sometimes you have to build by themselves, right? So that's the key challenge when you embark on this kind of project. And other than that, if you possible, we need to also incorporate biological contaminants like bacterial counts, fungal counts, even the carbon dioxide, which is the ventilation performance indicator, which is common. So to have all these air contaminants sensors and to program with the acceptable limits is a bit a challenge. But fortunately, we do have managed to get those sensors right from the um, neighboring countries, right? So what happens is that, as usual, the data has been trained, right? And then we did some exploratory data analysis to observe that the gene the site is in balance. So using the synthetic monetary oversampling technique, it generates synthetic samples because of the to have a more balanced representation. So it's okay to use mode because when you deal with indoor locality, which sometimes doesn't have much attributes, and to have a more enhanced, right, distributions of training data in the future. So there are many existing work which been compared, and most of them, as I mentioned, they could not fulfill most of the contaminants, right? So it is the reality when we work with AIoT projects in real world. The biggest challenge is to fulfill the attributes and to have all the parameters together in a project, right? So there also has been comparison with our neighboring countries like Indonesia and Vietnam, and most of them have a very nice air quality dashboards, but lacks of Gen AI capabilities. So why Gen AI is important here is because we want to have some um, quantitative measurements of air quality, right? Using the metrics like particle matter 2.5, and different gases, right? Concentrations for air quality index, and standardized numbers, how these clean or polluted the air is. So the resilience here means the context capacity of the systems to respond. So, and this is very important because uh, indoor is equally important as the outdoor quality, right? So this is an embedded model that we create for the air quality monitoring. So the dashboard is pretty much exactly how do we see the common analytics dashboard. But the thing is that it has a chatbot features that could actually prompted to give you predictive measures or on what could be the ideal way to setting the indoor environmental temperatures, indoor environmental air qualities based on the data given. So this was actually the key point where we use this Gen AI based LLM model, okay, to prompt, to train, and then to see what would be the enhanced version, right? So the next step of this kind of project is to automate, right? So when you have indoor air quality monitoring, you probably have a weather quality monitoring, you probably have a facility management in the buildings, which are being bespoke isolated. So it's important to have them connected, and could be the first step to come up with such projects. So everything is pretty much uh, consistent from the device platform, the way we choose the microcontrollers, right? Uh, to look into the software or device APIs, connecting even the web programming or even cloud platforms. So the students will be mostly spending their time on the looking at the data analytics, visualization, and machine learning. So there are a lot of implications when we do this kind of projects, when we embark on this kind of use cases, because we know that leading edge companies will start to use IoT for competitive advantage. Of course, we have many use cases on smart homes, smart cities, waste monitoring. And normally, they are very much urban centric, but I think it's time for us, with the help of Gen AI, we could actually embark on more, I would say, I would say, blue ocean strategy, where you have more localized use cases like landslide preventions, forest fire detections, water quality monitoring, and so on, right? So, so this is something that every researcher has to take note that sometime, when we embark on a project or use cases, we have to see the functionalities, right? So just like Google Glass, once upon a time it was very hyped, but it didn't really well received by the consumers. Not to say it failed, but it didn't fail because of the technology. The technology was good, but it wasn't clear to the user what problem it actually solved and why they needed it, right? So that was one of the common mistakes, right? So there are a lot of drivers and challenges, right? Of course, explosion of new data. Okay, at the same time, we need to come out with the support that could legacy systems, because no industry or um, would like to invest in a new product without compromising the existing one. So that's very important, and that's every researcher has to keep in mind. So that's the predictions, and some resources that I used for today's presentation is from the IEEE standards P2413, which specifically talks on the architecture, and they have an enhanced version on the AI part, and some of the consortiums, right, like OSAs, OMA, M2M, some references, right, and yeah. So that's all from me today. Thank you very much. I'll be happy to take up any questions from the floor.
Yes, any questions from the participants?
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, if you have any questions, participants, please raise your hands so that you'll be getting an opportunity to talk to sir.
Yeah, sir will give some research directions. Participants, do you have any queries? Can you talk about the research directions to our participants, sir, regarding this fusion of AIoT with Gen AI?
Okay. Okay. It depends on the domain. Okay, the domain that the researchers wants to embark on. Right. I think it's very important to decide where they want to start it, and then they could actually take it up. But for every beginner that you want to have a look into the fusions of AIoT into the projects, uh, of course, generative AI is very mature today. Getting the hands-on some of the LLM models and using the right tools is fine. But then, of course, we could not stop there. I think we could take it to the next level. So I would suggest that for those researchers to pick up one domain to get started and find the right clear problem statement. So it could be in the agriculture, it could be on the facility management, it could be in the EV or autonomous vehicles. But I think there are a lot of papers today that's been done on the respective domain. So that's where we can get started.
Audience, please raise your questions.
May I know if there is anyone who actually works on a real AIoT projects?
Hello.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, Shivani.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, ma'am.
Mm.
So I have one question, sir. So as we are writing one, these grant proposals, research grant proposal for the particular agency. So can you just give me idea like how we can create new ideas or new projects using these technologies, this agentic AI based models?
Okay. Thank you, Shivani. All right. When you are writing a proposal to particular agencies, the first thing is that to look into their suggested themes, right? Sometimes it could be on the agentic AI. Probably they talks about the rack model, right? Sometimes it could be a very generic framework on specific domains or applications, or sometimes it could be on the circular economic. Okay, when because most of the funding agencies they do not expect a very technical in-depth research proposals, but they would like to see the applicability of your topics that you're going to propose. So what happens is that in order to get a new idea for the research proposal, uh, the best way is to see the economic forums. Okay, economic forums
Okay.
is something like you see in India. They might have some economic forums in Asia or even the World Economic Forum. They will highlight top five important sectors or emerging sectors, and you also need to see what is the government's directions in the next 5 years, the roadmaps. So that could give you some idea on generating the ideas for that particular proposals. And to be very clear and I think to be very frank, any proposals that we write for funding, it has to be practical, and you also need to see the timeline. If they say this funding is actually only for 1 year, then the project has to be completed in 1 year. So you need to write in a such a way that you'll be able to complete in 1 year with all the resources. And it's always, funding today is very challenging. So
Yes.
and it's sometimes we can't put too high figures to ask for the money. And then I think it's practical and it's observable that you just mentioned that you put a very low cost on the research materials, but you put some um, justified cost for the publications, for conferences, which actually contributes back to the university community. So I think that's the general idea. But again, if you have more specific fundings that you would like to apply, then you can let us know, or maybe I can give you more insights on that.
Okay, sir. Okay. So how we can increase the chances of acceptance, like based on the agency's requirement, like
Oh,
what type of projects they already sanctioned. We need to see that.
yes. Definitely. Then sometimes, funding agencies will look into your track record.
Okay.
They will see whether you have worked in the past in the similar projects, or probably you have some significant publications in the field of that you're writing the proposals. Or maybe even if you're a beginner, you're just starting to apply for funding, it's good to collaborate internationally with some reputable researchers. So that gives some merit and for maybe could strengthen the proposal for you to secure. So that is one
Okay.
of the strategy. Normally, it's good to partner with some international researchers who actually works in the field.
Okay. So, sir, one question more. For example, I have done my PhD in agriculture with AI, but now I have written the research proposal using healthcare and on social media data actually.
Okay.
It's so my research agency, like in our university research department, is saying like we cannot process this because this is not your area. Because after PhD we can change our area.
Yes, yes.
So, but they are denying like we could not proceed it. So
Okay.
it.
Yeah, I understand your question, but the thing is that many it happens everywhere. Well, like when mostly the organizers, the funding providers, they want a very low risk in the sense that they expect that project is could be very successful when they give the funding, and they expect that the project is actually very highly relevant to the specializations of the particular researcher. So let's say even if you have done your PhD in agriculture with AI, but when you're applying for some social related data, you could still apply, provided you have done some preliminary publications in that area. So that is something that convincing for the funding providers. So they know, okay, even though you're from different domain, you worked on previous different domain, but now you can actually work because you have done some publications on that.
Okay,
So,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, fine. So thank you, sir.
Yeah, welcome. Okay, there is one.
One more question from Gokila, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
You can...
Yeah. Good evening. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Actually, what I thought of asking, you have answered now. Just now you have answered. My question was about like, if a proposal want to get accepted, should our profile should be a stronger one? That is what my question was about to be. That you
Yes.
have answered. Yes, of course. Yes, you have answered.
Yeah.
Answer that. One more question what I want to ask is, if it is a 2-year proposal, I mean there is a proposal that could be having a timeline for 2 years, and the maximum budget they are mentioning like something like 12 lakhs. What would be the budget we can propose to get favor, I mean to get accepted over? With your experience, you just tell the answers. I know that that may not be an appropriate answer for this, but still, through your experience, you just guide us.
Okay. The first questions are probably about the strengthening the proposals. Of course, the normal notion is that they look at your specialization domain, but of course, if you have some prior publications, I don't see any issues. And then for the second questions, I think about the funding portions, it always good to keep within 70 to 80%. So let's say if it's 12 lakh, then you can put a portion of 70 to 80% of the 12 lakh, not full, not 100% of 12 lakh. So that could be one of the strategies of asking the funding.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, welcome. Yeah. Okay, I think there's another questions from Dr. Dimple.
Oh, one more
Yes.
has one
Yeah,
more.
sure.
Yeah, Dimple,
Yeah,
please.
yeah. Hello, sir. Thank you for an informative session. My only confusion is that in Goa University under aided college. So, am I permitted to take up any of postdoctoral research work in a part-time mode in any reputed universities across India?
Okay, it depends on the institutions regulation. Some institutions allows you to take part-time mode, but what I see the trend today, like
Uh,
most of the candidates, they go for full-time, at least for 9 to 12 months abroad.
Sir, and that one more constraint what I am currently facing is that because I've crossed 45 years, I'm not finding any funding agencies other than the deemed and private universities who would be at least giving a say for it. Like most of the others have their age bar cut off, saying that once you cross 35 or max to 40 years, they are not giving any kind of promotional features for getting into postdoctoral research work. I am very very unhappy for this, because one side we publicize and say that okay, research can be done at any point of time in your life. On the other side, most of the agencies to whom I have been interacting, for example, I tried it in VIT, also even I tried it with Christ University, Bangalore. I tried with IIT Mumbai. Most of the institutes have given me one or the other kind of reason, saying that one is, most of them said your age bar, and the other constraint what they have put up is that because you are a full-time employee, we won't be able to take up this as an option for you to continue. But on the other side, there are many part-time research of based PhD going on. So I don't know what is the way in which this interpretation is going on in the society, because if we can do part-time normal undergraduate feature of a PhD program, why there should be so much of conditions and constraints saying that we cannot continue a normal postdoc of taking up a project and finishing it wherever across India.
Yeah, but yeah, I do understand that, but I think it comes back to the the guidelines set by the institutions.
Okay.
Like there's another way of doing it. Like probably if postdoctoral is not an option, then
Yeah.
a short mobility attachment is also possible. I think taking up a project for 3 months and then
Okay.
expanding it another 3 months with at your own pace also could be one way of jumping ahead. So that can be
Okay.
discussed like on case by case basis with the institutions, because sometimes I do understand many academic staffs, they would like to have the testimonial saying that okay, they have done a postdoctoral in a particular
Yeah.
institution, and that could add some value to their career profile.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but because today is very competitive, and there's a lot
Yeah.
of challenges, as you mentioned, that after 45, like it's
Yeah,
like
sir.
quite difficult to be stationed, and then even the importance are given to the new breed. But that's very common. You see, in computer science, every time it's like our field of interest change very quickly, right? So every 3 years we have to reinvent ourselves.
Yes,
So
sir.
that's what's bigger. If you look at other domains, they don't have this issue, but it's computer
Yeah.
science. We have to
Yeah.
we have to come up with a new knowledge domain every 3 years. There should
Yeah.
be a
No, actually,
yeah.
I'm actually having lot many publications. I've even published a book which is corpus indexed. I'm
Mhm.
currently, even this year, if you ask me, I will be definitely having minimum 3 corpus publications in this year also. But none of them are being taken into an account whenever they want to sanction a project. That is what is the other side of it. I keep updating myself, and currently I'm actually working on most of this in data science and linking them to AI. But still, I could never find any positive response, even though I'm up to date, wherein age is not a matter of concern in terms of the academic profile of the resume which I put in.
Understood. Very, very well understood. But yeah, but this is something that I think we can work in a different way now.
Yeah,
So,
you mentioned the
so
projects of any funding manager
yeah,
need to be from DIT or any. It could be even from a deemed university or from a private university also.
correct. It could be from any universities that could actually very much relevant to your work interest. I think that could be
Fine.
a good start to discuss, with that.
Okay, fine. Thank you so much.
You're,
Thank you, sir.
you're welcome.
Okay.
Yes. Any other questions? Sir, I
Madam.
have few questions.
Yeah.
Sir, I'm just wondering, how does GenA handle the uncertainty or variability in air quality data? Like due to the factors like there might be weather change, human activity, or something like that. So that time, how it will handle those uncertainty?
Okay, that's a good question. How to deal with uncertainty?
Mm.
Because when you compare with the outdoor air quality and indoor air quality,
Mm.
in air quality we won't have much issues because there won't be a lot of variance on the data. But
Okay.
outdoor, yes, outdoor there could be some external factors that could affect the outputs. So in outdoor, I think instead of just relying on the one specific data, there should be hybrid measure that you could combine with another systems, like integrating a unified weather monitoring systems. Then you can be able to handle that properly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, will this the AIoT and Gen AI handle the scalability issues, sir? If suppose I'm talking about a smaller farm and I'm extending it for large scale industry agriculture, so how the scalability will be handled in such cases?
Scalability, I think now, I think we have now rack which can actually do that stuff much better than Gen AI. So I think that's the directions where we are moving forward. So
Okay.
the in coming years, I don't see any issues with the scalability, because that's the way that RAG and agentic AI has been playing the roles today, pivotal role. So if you're talking about how big is your scale, like if you're talking about industrial agricultural, like
Yes.
bigger farms, like probably
Yes.
bigger
If
processing facilities, then I think it could be solved. I don't see any upcoming issues on the scalability.
Okay. So this how the IoT sensors in indoor farming environments will gather the data, sir, like particularly on air quality, and what are the other key parameters we need to monitor for real-time analysis?
Okay, for air quality, okay, but what is the correlations between air quality and the indoor agriculture? Is there any specific parameters that need
Yeah,
influence?
that is what I have a doubt, sir. So what are the parameters we have to consider for such cases?
But I think for in that case, I would say that moisture, humidity would be the important. As other than that, I don't see any direct correlations for the air quality with crop productions for indoor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Sir, is there any generative AI limitations regarding to computational speed up or computational requirements? Is there anything, sir?
Limitations.
Yeah.
In any aspect, any specific aspect that you are.
Yeah. Personalized use or any computational.
That's very good questions and common questions. It's all about cost, especially having our own GPU. Many students doesn't know. We have exciting problem statements and projects, but the only limitation is having the GPUs. But the price of GPUs is skyrocketing, and then the moment we have one GPU system, the next year it's become very quickly obsolete. So that's the only challenge. But otherwise I don't see any other limitations.
Okay, sir. Okay. I am S. Madhav, sir, Sonandra College, Narsapur.
Nice.
Sir, there is a query from our participant who are unable to speak. What is cognitive computing and how far it is related with the IoT?
Okay. Cognitive computing is pretty much related to something very classic in computer science we call game theory. So if you look at game theory, it's I think if some of you are familiar with reinforcement learning, it works pretty much like that. But just cognitive computing is more related to the neuroscience, mimicking neuroscience into AIoT. So like today we have GPUs, we today have Gen AI models, we have a rack, but in future we might have a chip that actually mimics the cognitive. So there's no software layer at the outside, but everything will be embedded into a chip. That could be the next as well.
So if a person wanted to do any project with this cognitive computing using our IoT, what type of projects would you suggest?
I would say start with maybe like what we did for indoor air quality. You can also do for water quality monitoring. That could gain a lot of attention. And if you want to apply for funding, I think these are the themes that you have to look into that. So water quality monitoring, even agriculture, like food security, that could be very good project scopes to get started, and that would help also for you to find a right theme for the funding. with the funding.
Sir, if in case
Actually,
if
this,
it's a now water quality monitoring system, what are the sensors you will recommend for that, sir?
Okay, for water quality monitoring, you need a dissolved oxygen sensor, you have a temperature sensor, you have a pH sensor, and then you have volatile VOC sensors. These are probes that can actually measure the contaminants in the water. And at some point, you also need ammonia sensors. These are the sensors that can be used for water quality monitoring. So generally for water quality monitoring, you typically have 5 to 6 sensor sets, which is sufficient for very nice data collection.
Good. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Fine, sir. And also coming to this water quality monitoring, actually many work has been already created, right? So what can be the new directions which you are suggesting to the participants?
Okay. Of course, there are already existing work done in water quality. Next level would be mitigations. Mitigation meaning that what we can do when the water is contaminated, what we can do when the water is polluted. What would be the next level? So this could be combining AIoT with actuations. Like probably instead of just having a decision support systems, you could have a mitigation support systems that could actually solve the water contaminants or water pollutions. That could be the next level. So all the while we have been measuring, but we don't have a mitigation plan. But the next level could be the mitigation support system. We call it MSS.
So how frequently will you suggest us to take the samples whenever we are going for water quality or air quality monitoring systems?
Okay, air quality monitoring, you can have like per day you can take around 6 hours. It's sufficient because if you're in indoor air quality, normally we took into the office hours considerations like 9 to 5 or 9 to 4. But for water quality, it could be like daily samples, right? For instance, if you're taking temperature sensor, you cannot take the sensors data every minute or every hours, or even 6 times a day is enough, because that could be costly for the cloud resources. So temperatures like that, temperatures you cannot take like continuously, but other data you can take samples like 3 samples or 3 to 6 samples.
Okay, sir. Thank you. So we encourage the participants to ask questions related if with the patent also. Sir is also having more idea regarding that. So one more person asking in the chat, suggest some IoT simulation software names. For what purpose?
Yeah. Okay. There are a lot of options for IoT simulation. Okay. I think if you are looking at sensor deployment, for example, if you want to just collect sensor data, then NS3 could be good options. Then you have OMNet, even MATLAB Simulink. I think many of students are quite familiar with MATLAB or Simulink. So like what we do in the lab, we used Walkway, Thinagara, okay, because we did a lot with microcontrollers. Then we use these kind of simulators. Even iFoxSim, okay. Also, if there are students or researchers who work on the cloud environments, you can use iFoxSim. Okay, these are all for industrial data. Generally, MATLAB, Simulink, iFoxSim, even Tinkercad, okay, can be used for industrial data deployment. NS3 is open source. NS3 is Network Simulator 3. That's normally simulated for network and IoT protocols. That's NS3. And if you're using iFoxim, that's more on the resource management and task scheduling for the cloud environment with IoT. And like us in here in my lab, my research group, we use a lot of MATLABs because it's a one-stop tool, because MATLAB and Simulink can do comprehensive system and data analysis. Sure. Okay, sure. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Madam was asking related with the industrial data deployment, how it is used, IoT simulators.
It's all depends on what kind of data you want to take. So about all the tools that I mentioned, like MATLAB, iFoxim, NS3, it's okay for industrial data development deployment. Sometimes, there are also tools like NI instruments like LabVIEW. That's also very common for industrial data deployment.
Okay, fine, sir. So as of now, when we are talking about this fusing this AIoT with the Gen AI, what can be the research directions, sir? Any 2-3 research directions can you help us, sir?
Basically, any computing science related problem statement that could be research direction, but specifically AIoT with Gen AI, I think they can solve the one of the major research action, which is what we call as interoperability. So what is interoperability? Interoperability is like we have two or more systems that can interchange and perform message exchange. With Gen AI, you actually solving the interoperability much faster, because when with Gen AI, you know what exactly data needed for the particular attributes, and this could actually bridge the gap smaller and smaller in the years to come. So interoperability is one of the research directions. Second would be on the scalability of deploying IoT ecosystems in agriculture. Third would be on the smart manufacturing. There's a lot of issues in smart manufacturing, but sometimes problem statement in smart manufacturing is not um, textual. Textual means that it's not a textbook material. I think we need to go to the field. When you go to the field, when you look into the manufacturing ecosystems, then you realize that many things can be invented.
Nice, sir. Sir, whether this anomaly detection can be done using IoT?
Yes, definitely. Anomaly detection is one of the
How?
important. Using reinforcement learning is the classical example for IoT.
In reinforcement, which particular algorithm will help us, sir? Any idea?
Any idea? Okay, I would say that okay, for example, for use case like okay, let's say in IoT ecosystems we have like um, sensors that are actually being used for agriculture, right? So agriculture, for example, large scale agricultural, like crops, and then so probably you can use like generally when value based or policy based is very common, but I think in the AIoT, Q learning and SARSA could be one of the in the past we used that, but SARSA and Q learning is quite common in AIoT. Even deep Q is also fine. Policy based for to approximate any Q value functions for large scale methods. Other than that, Monte Carlo temporal difference learning, especially over time series, is also fine to look into anomaly detections in this kind of environment.
But the SARSA also taking the states, and based on the states only, it will go for identifying the rewards. In
Right.
that case, how that will be used with our IoT, AIoT based work, sir?
So what is intention? Are you going to detect any anomalies, or what is the purpose of using SARSA?
The purpose is to identify the better crop suitability on a particular soil.
Okay, if you want to use SARSA is a state action, but
Yeah, state.
you definitely you need a past data for that, and then that based on the policy you can use Q learning to check the agents. But maybe not for agriculture. Maybe for other manufacturing might be more viable, I think, because in agriculture you won't have much census data states to measure.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Participants, you have any queries? Kindly get it clarified from sir.
Yes, ma'am. So if there is no other queries, let's conclude the session.
Yes, madam.
Thank you so much, sir, for delivering such an insightful and engaging session. So the way you answered all our queries, all our doubts are clarified. And now the people, I hope that the participants have a clear-cut idea on where to kickstart and how to proceed with this fusing of AIoT with the Gen AI. Your presentation was truly exceptional and demonstrated the remarkable depth and clarity, sir. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the support. Thank you very much. Bye. Thank you.
Hello, ma'am.
Participants, we will have a break for 10 minutes. Then you can join by 4:55 for the next session in the same link.